What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Ariel Helwani reveals Mark Zuckerberg didn't rent out UFC Apex. This past weekend, fight fans tuned in to an action-packed night of fights from the UFC Apex in Las Vegas. The card was one that flew under the radar for most fight fans. However, by the time the event was over, the consensus was that it was a thrilling night of fights. In the week leading up to the fight, news surfaced that the event would be closed off to media members and fans. With the MMA community skeptical of what was taking place, media members questioned Dana White about the reasoning behind the closed-off event. Although the UFC president declined to share details, rumors of Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg renting out the Apex for the event began to quickly circulate. Although the UFC president took to Twitter to shoot down rumors of Zuckerberg renting out the Apex, fans couldn't help but speculate as to why the event was closed off to the public. When the event went live, the CEO was sitting cage-side with his wife, leading many to assume the reports of him renting out the facility for a private event were true. According to longtime MMA Journalist of the Year Ariel Helwani, that is not the case.
Now, what I am being told now from good sources is he did not rent it out, that he was invited, and that it was the UFC's decision, Dana White in particular's decision, to close it off to the media and to the fans, so that he and some Facebook friends, executives, whatever, his wife clearly there, can just enjoy it privately.
Although Helwani's report helps to shed some light on the situation, it also leaves fans with more questions than answers. Right now, the MMA community seems to think that there could be some sort of partnership brewing, but without any real information, there's been little to go off of. With theories flying, we want to hear from you. Do you think the UFC and Meta will ever partner up in the future? Give us your thoughts in the comment section down below. Nickal doesn't think Khamzat Chimaev is a true professional. Nickal has absolutely burst onto the MMA scene over the course of the last year. After picking up a dominant debut win in Jorge Masvidal's Icon FC, the highly touted prospect made his first appearance on Dana White's Contender Series, where he picked up a spectacular first-round submission win. While many thought that Nickal would be immediately signed to the UFC, the promotion opted to book him for one more fight on the Contender Series, considering the fact that he was only 2-0 as a professional. Just over a month later, Nickal fought on Dana White's Contender Series once again and picked up another first-round finish to guarantee him a spot on the UFC's roster. After earning his contract, talks shifted to who Nickal would fight in his UFC debut. Although he wanted to immediately jump into the deep end and fight Khamzat Chimaev, the promotion booked him to fight Jamie Pickett on December's UFC 282 card. Despite that, talk of a potential Nickal-Chimaev fight has been the talk of MMA Twitter as fans and critics weigh in on how a potential fight between the two dominant wrestlers would go. The way Nickal sees it, the fight wouldn't be as competitive as people think.
This is just a dude that has no accountability and who doesn't treat the sport professionally. Like, that makes me way less nervous to fight him in the future, because we're gonna fight, and I know that he's not committed like I am. He's not willing to do the things that I'm willing to do. And yeah, he's talented, yeah, he has skills, but if that's how you approach the sport, that's how you treat it, we're on different levels.
Although Chimaev currently doesn't have a fight booked, news surfaced today revealing that the three-time Swedish national wrestling champion had his passport revoked upon landing in Chechnya to visit family. With no word yet as to when Chimaev will be allowed to leave the country, talk of a potential bout with Nickal is sure to die down for the immediate future. And before we continue, make sure you give that like button some love and be sure to subscribe to the MMA Zone for all of the latest news. Beneil Dariush wants title shot before Michael Chandler. Although Michael Chandler has made a big splash in the UFC since his debut last year, many have continued to question his claim to another title shot. After picking up a devastating first-round knockout win over Dan Hooker, the former Bellator MMA champ fought Charles Oliveira for the vacant lightweight championship in a closely contested bout that saw him ultimately TKO'd in the second round. It marked the beginning of a rollercoaster ride for Iron Mike, who most recently defeated Tony Ferguson earlier this year via KO at UFC 274. Ahead of his upcoming fight with Dustin Poirier in New York, Chandler has indicated that he expects a fight with the winner of October's lightweight title fight showdown between Charles Oliveira and Islam Makhachev. That doesn't sit too right with Beneil Dariush, who is set to be the backup lightweight fighter at UFC 280 should either Oliveira or Makhachev be forced out of the bout at the last minute. Considering the fact that he has gone on a staggering 7-fight win streak and will look to make it 8 against Mateusz Gamrot, Dariush thinks that he should get a crack at the belt before Iron Mike does. He spoke in a recent interview with Helwani, saying,
honestly, if I think he's just trying to hype himself up. I don't think that's true. But if that does happen, man, I will. That's basically a clown show. The guy just had a title shot, lost, and then lost again. So it doesn't make sense. After I beat Gamrot, I don't think there's anyone who could step in front of me.
With Dariush currently on one of the longest active win streaks in the UFC, it would be hard to deny him a title shot with a win over Gamrot. Although his win streak has been one that has flown largely under the radar, Dariush's case for a title shot is an incredibly strong one. With time winding down before UFC 280, one thing is sure. Whether or not a title fight comes in the form of a last-minute fill-in at UFC 280, Dariush will be ready. And now, for our breaking news story of the day, we have Conor McGregor announcing his return to the UFC as a welterweight. He went on Twitter doing a Q&A when a fan asked, "Welterweight next?" with Conor responding, "Definitely." He also went on to predict the Charles Oliveira vs Islam Makhachev fight at UFC 280, saying, "Ali, and easily," and followed it up with, "I've KO'd every Brazilian I fought, I'd KO Charles too." What do you think about Conor McGregor's recent tweets? Are you ready to see Conor step back into the octagon at welterweight? Last up, Brendan Schaub fires back at Joe Rogan over recent comments. The long-standing bromance between Joe Rogan and Brendan Schaub could be in jeopardy. Although the two comics have been incredibly close friends for years, Schaub recently found himself on the receiving end of some criticism from both Rogan and UFC President Dana White after he speculated that the UFC brass was responsible for the last-minute reshuffling of the UFC 279 card. According to Schaub, the promotion realized the scheduled Chimaev vs Diaz main event bout wasn't selling well, and made the decision behind closed doors to secretly reshuffle things and book Tony Ferguson to fight Diaz in the main event. The theory garnered considerable criticism and saw Rogan go as far as to suggest that Schaub needed a full-time handler to talk him out of making questionable decisions. Although Rogan admitted that he hadn't talked to Schaub personally about the ridiculous theory surrounding UFC 279, his comments caught the attention of Schaub, who was quick to fire back in a recent video, saying,
and then people want to get mad at me. Oh, dude, come on. That you think Dana would actually do that UFC 279? Brendan needs a handler. Do I? Or does your boy need a handler? I'm not the one playing grab ass with Mark Zuckerberg, letting him rent out Thick Boy Studios, shutting it down for his entertainment. You should have ran that by me. Right? I don't need a handler.
Schaub's accusations about the UFC letting Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg rent out the Apex for a private event may not be true. After UFC President Dana White shot down theories that Zuckerberg rented out the Apex for a private event, renowned reporter Ariel Helwani confirmed that Zuckerberg was invited to the Apex as a guest. Given that, it's unclear whether Schaub was unaware of Helwani's report, or he simply doesn't believe that Zuckerberg was there as a guest. With how outspoken both Schaub and Rogan are, expect this feud to rear its ugly head at least once more before it dies down. Stay tuned for updates as they become available. Thanks so much for joining us today. What do you make of what's going on in the fight world? Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on all of the latest news from the MMA zone. See you next time.